Good morning. This is Kathy Vick, and I want to make an entry for today because today is the 23rd. I did an hour worth of lecture yesterday, and it stands as one of my best works. So I'm very pleased with the effort. But the thing is that I have something more to say. I am going to, as part of this day and process, I'm going to transcribe the what I did yesterday because it's important. It's important people read the words. It's important I read the words. I'm calling this one A Plutonian Describes Hell. From the time I was a kid, I thought hell was silly. You're gonna scare me with that. Go fuck yourself. I know hell. And it's not what's described in that book. Even then. But now I have a more sophisticated explanation. It dawned on me this last week in one of the pockets of terror I found myself. It was mainly a very nice, well-lit corridor of loveliness, but every now and then there was a pocket of hell. And in the middle of one, I realized this is hell. This is it. I described it. It's been described before. You've heard of that tale of you find yourself in a dream and this person takes you to a corridor and says, I want to describe something, I want to explain something to you. So let's look behind this door, shall we? And it's you can hear it before you see it. People are screaming and yelling and carrying on. And you walk into a scene where there's a big pot in the middle of the room, big black kettle. And everyone has, they're in the same predicament. One of their hands is free. But one is tied to a very, very, very long-handled spoon. Unusually long, like 2 feet long. Every single one of them. And they're sitting around a big metal pot. And their job is to eat. And it's somehow just forgotten that one hand works. Everyone focuses on that hand with the spoon. How are you supposed to feed yourself? It's just long enough to ensure that if you try to bring it to your mouth, it's going to get dumped on your shoulder. And the people in there are lamenting and accusing and hungry. And understandably suspicious of their neighbor, unable to see that everyone is suffering, everyone is starving, not just the one convinced that they're going unfed on purpose. And your guide kind of shuffles you out of that area and closes the door and says, now I got another room. The door opens down the hall, and you're surprised that to even find anyone there because it's quiet before the door opens up. It's the same setup. It's the same lighting. It's the same everything. But there's order and there's peace and there's congeniality and there's there's no yelling and there's none of that chaos feel and none of the fear and all that's gone. And the people around this pot are they're kind of plump, and they're all smiling and they all refer to each other by name, and they're just laughing, and it just feels nice. And in this one, everyone has got the same setup. One hand free, somehow just not attended to, and the other arm, the other hand, has attached to it a long, long spoon. But in this scenario, it's funny because everybody's figured it out. They're no longer even thinking about their own hunger. Maybe this group never thought about it to begin with. They just saw a job and got to work. But the thing is that when you go to get soup from this kettle, it's possible, no problem. And then everybody just seems to know that you go over to the next person, to your neighbor, and you feed them. And you open your mouth, and there's food. Heaven and hell. I guess it really came to me when I was watching the video that I produced yesterday and talking about the mother and baby and the days or weeks or months that pass, hopefully, protected, a mother and her infant, just falling in love with each other in that stardust way that two humans have when they really when they're charged with discovering on Earth their rock solid connection that they seem to don't consciously completely understand or appreciate, and dealing with the communication barriers that inevitably must be there between a non-verbal, non-fully developed human being and one that is been kicked around a little bit. It talks to what this talk is all about, which is levels of consciousness or dimensional reality. I wish I could make it a little more user-friendly, but I don't know how. It's the quality of not only thought, but feeling tone that's available in different areas of consciousness. And it's really been my pleasure and my responsibility, I felt, to figure this out, at least for myself. And I had all morning been thinking, I woke up at 2. This is my morning. It's now what? Hold on, just for fun. 4:58. Oh, it's getting late. I've already had 1 pot of coffee. I just really feel like I just had a big moment, and it started with, okay, well, when I would be really happy, there were moments, there were times when I was so incredibly, indelibly happy. And no matter what kind of challenges came up, it's a lark. It's just part of it, and the lifting is very light. And I could be lifting boulders, semi-trucks, it doesn't matter, the lifting's light. Those are times when I know that when I'm very connected with people socially, when I have commitments that I don't find onerous, that are actually feeding me. And there's romance. I really, really do better when I have just a little, I don't know, pep in my step. I'm happier. Always have been. Just a minute. We're going to get there. But there are other things that make me really happy. And really, the truth is, like I've said, when I'm left alone, when I don't have to interact with anyone except what I choose to do, I'm sloppy happy. It's when I think about someone I love who doesn't want to have anything to do with me, or someone I love who is convinced that I'm the devil, or someone I love who fill in the blank, that I just am miserable and I truly suffer. I cry and I feel trapped, and I sometimes I want to die. It's never really in relation to me, and I literally could be very happy living set apart. I know why it is that I have an Indian lifetime that just stretches on and on and on. Why not stay? It's pleasurable here. The focus of the senses is pleasurable because I can keep the tone pure. And it's this that is a central theme. And I was very concerned on my bed. I don't feel physically well. There's something that I just am just so worried about. And I've seen it. I know it's partly a desire to exit, and that's because I can't hack it. I'm not going to be able to do it. I don't want to live in hell. I don't want to live in hell. If I'm asked to live in conflict and anger and resentment and suspicion, and so the question comes, who's the stronger? Me or whatever random person who's in whatever random pocket of terror they might happen to be. I'm talking about long-term exposure here. I'm not talking about a bad encounter. I'm talking long-term exposure. And I realize this has really truly been a sacrificial life, and it fills me with rage when I see someone abdicating their happiness, their peace of mind, their pleasure, their future, their hope, to individuals around them who are lost. And I think what's been confusing is, I recognize the kettle. And I agree to pretend that this fully functional, magical problem-solving hand of mine just isn't available to me. And I find myself with a spoon tied to my hand. And I think that, for most of my life, I had a really good sense of hearing. And I chose the door where the screams were coming from, Why not? This lifetime isn't about getting fed and being happy and fat. And when you try and bring order to people who are chaotic, and you show them a tool that actually works, but doesn't feed them personally, and they're in that place, they don't care. They're hungry. So you wind up going unfed, and you wind up feeding a lot of people. And that's kind of the definition of a sacrificial life, isn't it? The thing is that walking into that kind of a place, rolling out of bed in the morning, feeling that mother-infant energy and all of that love, and then encountering that madness day after day, night after night, year after year. I guess what I'm doing is trying to figure out whether I want to stay in heaven or in hell, and if it's okay to just visit heaven from time to time anymore. So I saw that, my life is a sacrificial one, and maybe if I'm sick, then maybe my illness and my death is also sacrificial. And what a kick in the pants that would be. It makes sense, though. Everything about it makes sense. But I don't want to die before I'm 60. I always wanted to before, but I really don't want to. I'm not willing. I have things I want to do finally. And while my will to live and to be happy and to pursue things that bring me joy is strong, my body has gotten so weak. The range of my walking is limited. And I physically don't feel well a lot of the time. So I prayed on my bed, well, maybe if I could just do a leapfrog. I keep thinking, I keep bargaining. I have for a while. If I could just leapfrog, if I could just get high enough, fast enough, I could somehow rework the biology. Somehow I could tell the biology to stand down. And I realized that's really not likely. It's not likely. Especially given the life situation that I'm in. It's not likely. I'm a believer in miracles. But I know how to accept limits too. Yesterday we saw our second funeral procession in about as many weeks. And I had literally gone decades without seeing one. At least 15 years. And I always pay attention. When traffic is stopped, when I am stopped, and my job is to watch. The first procession was like that. Yesterday's? No. Yesterday was stop and start. Somehow we were allowed to follow it. And then it would stop, and then we would need to stop. But we traveled great distances with the procession. And the procession went on. We turned off. That was, again, something that didn't ever happen before. Always they. I was made to wait while they left. This time, no. They went on. And we went in a different direction. And I always kind of go to that fear place of, I don't want to die. What is this telling me? It's been very strong. You'd think somebody who's as comfortable with death as I am would be okay with this, but it just always surprises me when it comes up. For me to encounter so much resistance to my own death. It's biologic because it's certainly not conscious and it's not soulic. It's just biologic. And so the time comes to just think about dimensions. They were talking to me about the dimensions, And if you have full access, that means you've got a tube that runs from the first all the way up to the 13th and beyond. And there is no real basement to the first. It's semi-permeable and you can go through, and it's one large continuum. It's not a column at all. It's just a circle. But on this spectrum of activity that we find ourselves, there are dimensions. Go high enough and you affect physical matter. How can you not? That's what's been happening. I'll be in the last couple of days. I might be sad. I might be feeling something really intense and imprisoning and sad and full of bullshit. And then something just happens and I go, wait a minute. And I'm up in a different dimension and I'm looking down and it's like, yeah, well, the perspective is different. The charge isn't there. The lifting isn't heavy. And so I have felt, that it's my duty to weed out, ferret out, winnow out the things that in my thinking that slow me down, bring me down, junk up the works because they're lies. And I realize now that, okay, well, I can have a nicely manicured lawn. But I walk out that front door or walk into a different room and I walk into a hellscape. That's the hermit stuff. That's the being a highly sensitive person stuff. That's the not being able to tolerate your bullshit and needing to leave the fucking area stuff. It hurts to be in conversation with you. It's not you, it's me. I have to leave stuff. And I guess I would revisit that and then just, hate myself for having set a limit, not understanding that I wasn't I'm not cutting off a supply of love. I'm cutting off a supply of ambivalence and confusion. And yes, obviously, love, it's all based from love and soul. But like I said, there are some things I can do and there are some things I cannot do physically. Voila. So it's really kind of been a study about what's going on here and where do I want to live? What do I want to experience? And I always think, well, romances, the things, having relationships, that kind of thing. It makes the world go round. It makes me so happy. It requires that I'm able to eat a lot of shit sandwiches, and I just, it requires that I'm ready, willing, and able to get a full dose of someone's complete and utter misunderstanding, and then to get kicked in the ass with their karma. We can love and we can have fun and we can play for anywhere from a few weeks to a few months, and then their bullshit comes out again. And I have none. Yeah, mine gets revisited too. Yep. And then we are not in heaven anymore. We are firmly in hell. What is heaven and what is hell? Don't they say in heaven that it's funny, there you can have anything you want. Just think about something and it's yours. And everyone goes, really? Anything? In hell? Do you get the stuff you want in hell? Are you physically comfortable in hell? Just think about the myths, okay? What's it describing? It's not describing a mythical place. It's describing how you can be actually certain of your divinity within your biology because your beloved looked you in the eye and you looked in their eye. And you exchange love. You know what it's about. Or you were right there and you helped someone when they needed it most. You were right there. And their lives are forever better in some little way. And you may never know their name, but oh God, that was fun. And that glow. That belief that life is good and that you, yourself, are good. You have a right to be here and a right to feel this good. You have a right to be happy. And look at this, you are. Oh. And you did it, you got there because of magic. Of effort and circumstance and magic. And then you encounter somebody who is convinced that you're the reason that they cry. And maybe you are. And maybe you aren't. Where's the love there? How affirmed are either of you? How convinced of good are you now? I don't know. Today I look back at my work and I am awed yet again, and I'm smacked with how sacrificial it was. I really truly hope there'll be one day when I can actually tell the truth about this work, the opposition that it's faced. But really doesn't matter because the opposition was on time and purposeful, as is the continued relative obscurity. It dawned on me as I was watching that tape from yesterday. Obviously I'm so sensitive. I didn't need any asshole up in my business telling me how to write, how to edit, none of that. You need to criticize in any way, you're off the team. You don't, That's not what this is about. You don't frickin' go up to a crib and criticize the baby. And that's what I realized. And that's what I'm beginning to realize more and more. About the last week. There's a lot of stuff that, moms don't tolerate around their infants. And they don't have to say, well, you're a horrible, wicked individual for even considering playing this movie full of violence and sexual relations around this infant. It's horrific. You would think that it's all right to smoke whatever it is you're smoking. You're not to do that around a baby. Don't you know not to raise your voice and scream and holler like a baby around a baby? Like that. Moms are pretty good about that. Now some of them are some of them just disappear. We're gonna have a problem, then I don't do problems. Bye. Well, moms do things in a lot of different ways. But moms have a requirement. They have a duty to make the world go away and to participate in heaven on earth, because that's all a baby knows to give. Moms have access. In a more intimate way than any other parent, any other human being, okay? It's a different bond. You don't have to like that, dude. It just is the truth. And dudes know that. And those who are in alignment don't put women down about it. They don't feel jealous. That's kind of a hellish feeling, isn't it? And so that's what I understand more about what I did yesterday and how it's playing out. Can my consciousness leapfrog to the 13th or beyond so that my body can heal and walk on in airy and strength and beauty for 20, 30, 40 more years? I guess what I realize is that this conscious me, the one who's clinging to another week or another month or another frickin' year for one more chance, that person needs to be loved. That person needs to be fed and reassured. And that person is scared enough and pliable enough now. They'll listen to the instructions about how everybody here can start feeling better if you pull yourself together and just do a couple things. Taking on a quiet, even, steady tone of voice when every person in the room is screaming and cursing and hurling insults and vicious, vicious allegations, do that for a lifetime and see how excited you are about going on and feeding more people. I think that's in a way what I'm going through. I've said it again and again along the way. When's it my turn? When do I get to come home to somebody who actually has money like I do, and actually has a vehicle like I do, and gets fed by making sure I'm full? And who lets me feed them even when they feel strong? When's it my turn? When's it my turn to not worry about every red cent? To not go without week after week after week after week after week after week after week? When is it my turn to take a vacation? I haven't had one since 2012. When's it my turn to open up an email where someone actually wants to offer me something because they see I've done good work? Or they feel that they need to. When is it my turn? And I've really felt bad about that because, when you're in that room with that pot and all those crazy people, you're just not going to get your needs met. And crying about it doesn't help. Then you're just one of them. But holding space for their craziness while you go hungry, I'm tired of that. That's a sacrificial life. And I vowed I would not do that with my life. I saw others do that in my childhood, and I, with every muscle in my body, vowed that that wouldn't happen to me. But I guess maybe I should have been more specific. It's about the company you keep, It's about which door you decide to walk through. And in the end, it's about realizing that although you might not remember how to use your good hand, it's still attached. And although you're attached to a spoon, your ass isn't attached to the seat of the chair. And if you don't like your dining companions and you don't like the soundtrack of your meal, it's not like you don't know the lay of the land. You can stand up, untie the spoon from your hand, and say thanks, but I have to leave, to a chorus of people who are more than willing to shout out, well then go fuck yourself. So it really is about taking care of my baby. Now more than ever. And if I wind up at the solstice in a physical body or not, it really at this point what matters is that every single day I remain in heaven. I haven't worked out how to stay in heaven when all around me are assholes. And I use that term because I'm tired of it. I find it assholish. I find it childish. I find it a waste of time, and I really, I'm done. I'm allowed. I'll think about this. I'm surprised at the length of it. I love this. Maybe this is my well, it is. I mean, this is what I prefer. And it's long and fuzzy and huge and eccentric, and I love it. It's about coming into me and not complaining about it anymore. And not explaining it, because the people I've been explaining it to really they're busy with other things. They haven't been paying attention. I can guarantee you that. And I'm not thinking that it's either or anymore. It's not about standing up and saying fuck off. But I'm feeling more and more convinced that I'm not the only person sitting in that room with the wild ones who's woken up suddenly. And if there's more than one, if there's more than two, we can start eating. We can start feeding each other. We can start simply doing it for our own comfort and enjoyment, not to teach anybody. Either they'll get it or they won't, but we need to eat. It's time. With a fuller belly, and with at least a couple of non-distressed table mates. It's funny how all that screaming and yelling just, well, it's still audible, but it doesn't scare me anymore. I'm not afraid. I feel safe, finally. I feel like I'm repairing, finally. I feel better. What a phenomenal gift to give on this beautiful day. I'm going to drink some coffee and I'm going to celebrate. I will transcribe my previous work. And I leave you. To dwell in the highest love, light, and sound. And I pray that you find the others. fed by energetic equals, and that you begin to repair as I pray. For that to occur in my life. I don't know if I wasted my love on the wrong people. All I know is I'm tired. And I'm hungry. The food smells good. And I don't want to fight it.